I mean it, Kendall. Leave the ship at Pepite and save your life. Even a fool could tell that Lee Blake died because he's foolish enough to remain alone in your cabin at a time when you'd laid a trap for the killer. He was killed in error. And I have a distinct impression that the killer will not make that kind of mistake again. Also, of course, I cannot help feeling that the rest of us might be somewhat safer without you on board.
Passage of the Tangmar. The story of a ship and its cargo of death.
And now, if you don't mind, Kendall, I'll have the gun of mine back. I find dinner a much more satisfying meal with a loaded gun in my pocket. Thank you.
I was still reeling from the news I'd received from Colonel Hacking that Peter Slavin's murderer had been apprehended in London, and that his death was in no way connected with the deaths of either Miller or Blake. And yet, in spite of that, I was sure that there was a connection. Something I'd overlooked, egged in my mind, a connection that had to be there. And now there was Major Challoner, his thin lips twisted into a grimace that I suppose was the closest he ever came to a smile. Standing at the door of the forward lounge, warning me that to save my life, I'd be wise to leave the Tangmar at Pepite. It was possible that he really was concerned for my safety, but somehow I felt the reason behind his apparent concern was deeper than that, and rather more personal.
I mean it. I assure you, Kendall.
I'm in no doubt about the fact that you want me off the Tangmar, Major Challoner, but I find it hard to believe that you're concerned for my safety.
I am, my dear fellow, I assure you, up to a point. Also, of course, I'm concerned for my own.
You think you'd be safer without me on board?
I do.
Why exactly?
You came aboard the Tangmar to find a murderer. Or so you say.
Go on.
It is just possible, of course, that you might be telling the truth. If you are, then my faith in the British police or Interpol or whoever you're supposed to represent has suffered a severe jolt.
You think you could have done better?
That is quite beside the point. However, you will admit that one is entitled to suspect that perhaps you have an interest in seeing that the rest of us do not reach Jamaica.
You're beating around the bush, Major. I want the real reason why you're so anxious to get me off this ship. You know jolly well who I am, what I am, so let's have it.
My daughter is the reason.
Sure.
But the people of our own age are being removed one by one, aren't they? I'd be just as pleased if you weren't in the vicinity.
Major Challoner, let me assure you of one thing. I'm not leaving the ship in Pepite, and I intend to find the man or woman I'm looking for. Your concern, if that's what it is for your daughter and the company you don't wish her to keep, is something you better take up with her, but you're wasting my time.
At the moment, Kendall, Sharon likes to imagine that she hates me. She'll get over that when she realizes that I'm all that she has. So stay away from her.
No, go on into your dinner, Challoner.
Won't you join me?
No, thanks. It's remarkable how talking to you takes my appetite away. Mm, 10 o'clock and all's well. Who was it, Lee? Who's the person I've overlooked? If I could be sure it was Challoner or Tuker, I think I'd almost relish this job. It's got to be one of the crew, but which one? Which one?
Mr. Kendall, I want to talk with you.
Oh, I need someone to talk with. I have a bit of deck rail. It's on the house.
It's about Lee.
Oh, yes?
My father didn't kill him. I was telling the truth. He was with me when we heard the shots.
Yes, I believe you.
Well, it's unbelievable. He told me that if I continued to see Lee, he wouldn't stop at anything to prevent it. And then we heard the shots. It's almost as if he's only got to will a thing to happen, and it does.
Oh, come now. Well, I'm sorry. I know how much Lee had come to mean to you.
But he hadn't. Oh, he was nice to me, yes, but why, I hardly knew him.
Anyway, aren't you out of bounds, being on deck at this time of night? If your father knew...
I've told Father. It doesn't matter what he knows. From now on, I'm doing as I please.
You know, Sharon, I hate to sound like a Dutch uncle, but in his own way, I'm beginning to think your father is fond of you.
It's the kind of affection you can't live with. It's more like hate.
Well, I'll admit he hates with plenty of conviction. But take my advice for what it's worth. Stay away from me. I'm bad medicine in the Challoner family.
You're not alone in that. There's never been anyone of my own age who wasn't warned off. And if that doesn't work, then plan number 2 goes into operation. Oh, it's very simple. He simply informs the person concerned that I'm a flirt. It spoils everything even before it's begun.
You know, if your mother had lived, I think you might have been just about the most contented girl one could find.
Thank you, sir. But since she didn't, I do have to face the problem. I'm sorry I bored you with it, Mr. Kendall.
Hey, wait a minute.
Don't give me that old fogey kind of advice, please.
Well, I'm sorry,
I know you have problems, Mr. Kendall. I know that Lee was a friend of yours, but... Can't you see why I came to talk with you?
No,
Because I wanted... Would it be so hard to take me in your arms?
Sharon, it wouldn't be hard at all.
I know you don't care for me. I know you're looking for a murderer, but... Dirk, I need someone just for a moment. Just to... Now I sound exactly as if I am a flirt.
I think you're a girl who'd do almost anything to have a shoulder to cry on. And I don't blame you. The moment I feel in need of a shoulder myself.
You read about them, Dirk. The ones whom nobody wants. Children abandoned, outside someone's door, left unwanted. And do you know, sometimes I envy them. They never know anything else. Whoever takes them in must seem like a good angel. But to belong to someone, to be proud of someone who can't bear you to be in the same room, to spend your life wanting to look up from a book or just to sit in the silence and catch the eyes watching you and loving you.
I think you'd best go below, Sharon.
Thank you for listening to me, Dirk.
Before you go, Sharon,
Yes?
if at any time I can be of help, if there's anything I can do... It does sound awfully trite, I know, but count on me, will you?
Good night, Dirk.
Will you?
I'm grateful you didn't kiss me. I think now I'll count on you even more.
Yes? Oh, Chief, come in. It's a bit late for the last of the Creegans to be prowling around, isn't it?
Late? Aye, I suppose it is. But I've had a long, hard spell down there with the engines. What with Captain Malcolm Campbell Goddard pushing them all the way, and I'd like to talk to you.
Help yourself to a drink?
No thanks.
Well, I'm not tired, so go ahead. What's on your mind?
The same thing that's on everyone else's mind on this ill-fated ship. Death, Mr. Kendall. Death.
What?
Oh, I'm not concerned, not for my own sake. But my stokers, maybe they are big burly fellows, and they are, about things they can understand. But they can't understand what's happening on the ship, and for that matter, neither can I. There's been 2 murders, and they're not solved. And the boys in the engine room are getting restless. They're getting edgy. I can feel it. So before you take your beauty sleep, you'd better give me some kind of a story that I can tell them.
I wish I could.
But you must know something.
Do you
must
think I'd keep it from you or the skipper if I did know? Well, I'm beaten, Mr. Cregan, and I know it. I've sat here for the past hour trying to work it out, and the more I plan, the more involved it becomes. Aboard this ship, there's the most cunning murder it's ever been I was going to say pleasure to come up against.
But the clues,
What
man.
clues? You tell me what the clues are.
Well, how should I know?
Oh, forget it. Maybe something will break soon and I'll have something to work on, but tonight, Chief, I'm convinced of my own inadequacy. Completely and utterly convinced. I'm no closer to finding the killer than I was when I came aboard the Tangmar.
You know, son, when you look like that, you remind me of my own boy. Down in the mouth over something that was too big for him.
I didn't know you had a son.
Didn't you now? Do you think I carry a placard saying, I, Chief Engineer Cregan, have a son? A finer boy you'd never meet anywhere?
Was he in the Navy?
No, he died.
Well, I'm sorry, Chief.
And it's all very well, but look, unless you give me some comforting news, Mr. Kendall, there's going to be a mutiny aboard this ship. And it's going to start right down in the engine room. Aye, they're frightened, Mr. Kendall. And men who are scared are dangerous men.
It was shortly before midnight, and within another 48 hours at the most, we'd be in Papeete. But what could I say to the chief officer that would reassure any of the crew? Cregan's fear for his men was only one more reason why I had to find the killer who stalked the decks in this passage of the Tangmar.